What you're looking at is not luxury, it's controlled engineering. Steel cut to microscopic tolerance, components assembled under magnification, movements calibrated to fraction of a second. This is not decoration, this is mechanical authority, and precision creates trust. It didn't start by selling dreams, it started by attaching itself to achievement. When a tennis player wins Wimbledon, when a driver breaks a record, when a driver stands on the podium, Rolex is there, not screaming, not dominating the screen, just present. And repetition builds association. Association builds perception. Perception builds status. Over decades, Rolex carefully aligned itself with exploration, competition, endurance, excellence, not influencers, not hype culture, achievement. When people see Rolex next to greatness for long enough, they begin to connect the two automatically. That's how brands became symbols. Because victory leaves emotion, and emotion creates memory. When the champion lifts the trophy wearing the Rolex, the image freezes in the mind. Over time, the watch is no longer just present as success, it becomes part of the definition of success. Most brands redesign to stay relevant. Rolex refines to stay dominant. The difference matters. Look at the Datejust, released in 1945, and yet, if you compare the first models to modern versions, the DNA is almost identical. The footer bezel, the sequence length, the balanced proportions. Rolex understood something very early. Recognition builds authority. If a design survives decades without needing reinvention, it stops being a product, it becomes a standard. Now look at Submariner, created in 1953, designed for professional divers, not collectors, not fashion magazines, divers. Water resistant for beyond normal necessity, rotating bezel for tracking dive time, legibility in darkness, function first, always. And that function created credibility, credibility created trust, trust created demand. Then came the GMT-Master, built in partnership with Pan Am in the 1950s, designed for pilots crossing time zones. At a time when international travel was still rare, Rolex wasn't building high pieces, it was building tools for professionals operating at high levels. Dual time tracking, 24-hour bezel, independent hour adjustment. It was not decoration, it was utility, and utility is powerful, because when something is built for professionals, it earns respect before it gets attention. And Rolex repeated the same formula again and again. Explorer, see dweller, day date, each model connected to a specific identity. Exploration, depth, leadership, notice something. Rolex never created random names. Every name carries weight. Explorer, Submariner, President, GMT-Master. These aren't just models, they are roles. They represent archetypes, and archetypes build emotional connection. Now, let's go deeper, because design alone doesn't create dominance. Inside every Rolex is movement built in-house. Rolex doesn't rely on outsourced calibers, it engineers its own mechanism. Chronometer certified, tested beyond industry standards, Parahome hairspring resistant to magnetism and temperature change, shock absorption systems, automatic winding mechanism refined for decades, each movement tested for precision, each case sealed for durability, each component built to last longer than trends. Rolex does not release a new moment every year, it upgrades slowly, incrementally, relentlessly, because consistency builds confidence, and confidence builds reputation. Most brands chase innovation cycles. Rolex chases reliability, and reliability compounds. Over time, that compounding creates myth. Collectors trust the brand blindly. Investors begin to treat it as an asset grade. Buyers begin to believe it will hold value. And when a product holds value, it starts being an expense. It becomes security. That shift is powerful. Rolex didn't just sell watches, it sold durability, it sold mechanical certainty, it sold the idea that time itself could be controlled, and that psychological positioning elevated it far beyond competitors. even competitors with equal craftsmanship, because Rolex didn't just master engineering, it mastered identity. Every model reinforces the same message: stability, consistency, authority. That's why design changes slowly, because fast change signals insecurity, slow refinement signals control, and control is power. And here's something even more important: Rolex rarely announces radical change. There are no dramatic reinventions, no sudden identity shifts. Instead, there are small adjustments: a slightly improved movement, a refined bracelet, a stronger clasp, a more precise tolerance. On paper, this updates look minor, but over decades, minor improvement compounds. That compounding creates superiority that feels invincible until you compare it. This is why Rolex watches from 1960s still look modern today, because they were never chasing a moment, they were building permanence. And permanence builds trust across generations. Fathers pass them to sons, professionals wear them for decades, collectors treat them as reference, not experiments. Rolex doesn't rush, it perfects, and that patience is exactly what transformed it from a watchmaker into a benchmark. Now, look closer, not at the logo, not at the name, look at the details. Under magnification, most luxury products lose their illusion. You begin to see shortcuts, rough polishing, uneven brushing, inconsistent finishing. Mass production discusses craftsmanship, but Rolex behaves differently. The closer you inspect it, the more controlled it becomes. The brushing on the steel is linear and consistent. The polished surfaces reflect light evenly. The bezel flutes are cut with mechanical precision. The bracelet wings connect without visible gaps. Even the weight feels calculated, not heavy for show, heavy for balance. That balance creates a physical sensation of stability, and stability communicates confidence. Rolex understands something subtle. Quality isn't just visual, it's tactile, it's emotional, it's psychological. When you hold the Rolex, it feels deliberate. Nothing feels accidental, nothing feels fragile. That feelings become part of the brand's power, because power is rarely loud, it's solid. Now let's go deeper. Rolex doesn't just build watches carefully, it controls how they enter the world. Production numbers are limited, distribution is tightly managed. For us, dealers follow strict rules. Discounting is really non-existent. You can't walk into any store and demand any model, even with money. There are waiting lists, relationship dynamics, control allocations. That's not inefficiency, that's strategy. Scarcity creates tension, tension creates desire, desire increases perceived value. Over time, this controlled scarcity built something even stronger than demand. It built mythology. Certain models became difficult to obtain. Certain references began trading above retail price. The secondary market started reinforcing the idea that Rolex isn't just stable, it appreciates. And once a product is seen as appreciating, it shifts categories. It stops being consumption, it becomes preservation. Preservation of value, preservation of status, preservation of legacy. That shift is powerful, because people don't fear spending money, they fear losing it. Rolex positioned itself as something that holds, that compounds, that endures. Now combines it with consistency. The design barely changes, the messaging barely changes, the philosophy never changes. In a world obsessed with speed and reinvention, Rolex represents control, and control feels powerful. It doesn't panic, it doesn't chase social media trends, it doesn't collaborate for noise, it doesn't oversaturate influencers. It remains selective, and selectivity reinforces exclusivity. Exclusivity reinforces status. Status reinforces demand. This closed loop, an ecosystem of perception, and Rolex has maintained that ecosystem for decades. That's why even people who know nothing about watches recognize the name, not because they studied horology, but because the symbol has reinforced socially, in business, in sports, in culture, in leadership. Rolex appears repeatedly in environments associated with achievement: boardrooms, podiums, celebrations, milestones, and repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity creates acceptance. Acceptance creates authority. Eventually, the brain no longer needs explanation. It becomes assumed. And assumed authority is the highest level of branding. That's where Rolex sits. Not trendy, not experimental, authoritative, stable, predictable in the best possible way. Over time, this strategy separated Rolex from competitors who chased innovation's headlines. Because headlines faint, but system endured. Rolex built a system of engineering discipline, a system of distribution control, a system of psychological positioning, a system of visual continuity, and the system compounds year after year. That compounding creates dominance, not overnight, not explosively, but steadily. And steady dominance is the most powerful form of dominance. That's how a mechanical device became a financial instrument, a social signal, a generational heirloom, a symbol of controlled success. Rolex didn't shout, "It's the way to the top." It engineered right here. And the difference is everything.